She mops floors in a dead-end town, then a stranger teaches her one small trick. Soon her face is on every news channel. How does a quiet gas station girl become the most wanted woman in the South? The movie begins on a long, empty highway under a wide southern sky. Heat shimmers off the cracked road and the whole world feels still, like it is holding its breath for someone to arrive. A man drives into a tiny gas station town with country music drifting from the radio. He looks calm and unhurried, the kind of man who has rolled through 100 towns just like this one and never stayed in any of them. He stops at a roadside store and buys a few small things at the counter. Nothing about him seems strange yet, just a quiet customer making small talk while he counts out his cash. But while he pays, he starts a strange little dance with the bills. His hands move smooth and easy, and the clerk never sees the trap being set right in front of his face. He keeps trading ones for a 10, adding a dollar and calling it 20. The numbers blur together until no one can follow them. Watch how he counts because it matters later. Down the road, a second stranger pulls into another filling station. The camera shows us this calm, careful man, and we sense at once that he is not here to buy gas. He buys a bag of nuts but says he will not fill up his tank. It is a small thing, but it tells us he is staying just long enough to do something, then leave. The clerk, Charlie, notices something is off about this calm visitor. There is a stillness in the stranger that makes the hair on Charlie's neck stand up, even if he can't say why. The man pays and waits for his change at the register. He is patient and friendly, never rushing, letting the clerk relax and lower his guard completely. Then he asks for the larger bill back, just like a small favor. It sounds so reasonable that Charlie hands it over without a second thought. He trades all his small money plus $1 for that single 10. The bills keep moving back and forth, and the math starts to slip away from everyone watching. Charlie gets confused and thinks he gave too much change. His mind races to keep up, but the numbers tangle and he cannot find where they went wrong. So the man kindly offers one more dollar to make it an even 20. The gesture feels generous and honest, the perfect move to make the whole thing seem fair. Charlie thanks him, the count looks right, and the man walks out smiling. Everything appears settled, and the clerk feels relieved that the strange little exchange is finally over. But Charlie suddenly realizes he is short. The man just walked off with money that was not his, and by the time it sinks in, the stranger is already gone. Outside, a young woman named Caroline stops the man. She saw the whole trick play out through the window, and she is not about to let him pretend it didn't happen. She tells him half that money belonged to the store. He just nods, amused, as if being caught is the most interesting thing that has happened to him all day. He asks her name, she says Caroline. Then, to her surprise, he says her full name right back at her, Caroline Daniels. She freezes. How does a total stranger already know her last name? It feels almost like a magic trick, and she can't shake the chill of it. Hold that question. That night, Caroline finds him again at the local bar, curious and a little angry. She came looking for answers, but part of her just wanted to see him one more time. He repeats his little change trick on the bartender right in front of her. He doesn't even try to hide it, as if he wants her to watch how easily it works. She asks again how he knew her name today. The question has been nagging at her all evening, and she needs to understand the trick behind it. He smiles and explains. There is a task list pinned up by the gas station register, plain for anyone to read. Mop the floors, clean the bathroom, stock the shelves. The chores are spelled out one by one for whoever is on duty. Her name, Daniels, is written next to every single chore, so he simply guessed she worked there. The mystery turns out to be nothing but sharp eyes and a quick mind. Then he asks her something no one in this town ever asks. If you could do anything in the world, what would you do? The question lands like a door swinging open. She says she would travel. He asks where. She says South Carolina. That's her whole dream. The way she says it, you can tell it means more than a place. Remember that place. She turns it back on him. He knows so much about her, so does he even have a name of his own? He tells her his name is Oliver. He says it plainly, but something about him still feels like a story only half told. She asks what he is doing here in a town this small. He says he is just passing through, the way he always is. Oliver says he grew up in California but left because the people there felt fake. He talks about it like a wound he learned to live with a long time ago. Then he asks if she wants to go somewhere with him right now. It is a small, reckless invitation, and she can feel her whole quiet life waiting on her answer. She takes him up to a quiet spot above the town. The lights spread out below them, and the night turns warm and close between them. Suddenly, a voice startles them in the dark, and her heart jumps. It's only a friend joking around, but for a second the world felt dangerous. She laughs it off, relieved, and pulls Oliver inside, the scare melting into something softer and easier. Later, lying close in the quiet, she asks him to tell her something about himself. For once she wants the truth instead of another trick. He turns it around the way he always does and asks what she does instead. She admits she already knows what he does. He cons people for a living. Then she asks the question that has been waiting in her chest: what happens if he gets caught? He says he never gets caught. She smiles at that, and we sense that maybe, deep down, she wanted him to be the kind of man who could. He asks the real question, the one that cuts closer than any con. Why is she still here? Why hasn't she gone to South Carolina yet? She says people stay with what's no good for them because it's all they know. It is the truest thing she has said all night. She tells a story about a body shop where stolen cars were stripped for parts. It was an ugly, hidden world, and she was stuck right in the middle of it. She felt trapped there, hating the work and hating the people around her. Every day felt the same, and she couldn't see a way out. Then she describes birds she once saw on a wire, birds that could fly anywhere they wanted, yet always stayed put right where they were. He laughs. Did that really happen? No, she admits. She read it on a greeting card, but the image stayed with her and she thinks about it a lot. He tells her she could go on 500 dates with him, like a promise tossed out into the dark. Keep that number, it comes back at the end. The next morning, her father, Hank, finds her home at last, and the worry on his face melts into quiet relief. He teases her gently about being out all night with a friend, the way a father does when he is glad and curious at once. She tells him the friend's name is Oliver. Hank doesn't push for more, he is just happy she came back to him. Hank brings up an old memory from when she was just a little girl, the kind of story he loves to tell again and again. Once, when he traveled for work, young Caroline was terrified he would never come home to her again. So he made a joke that became their secret game. Whenever she misbehaved, he'd say he was moving to Ecuador, and somehow it always made her laugh instead of cry. Hank chuckles that he keeps repeating his old stories like a worn-out old man, but you can tell he treasures every one of them. She asks if he ever wanted to pack up and see the whole wide world for himself. He says no, the world kicked him around enough already and he's perfectly fine right here at home. It is a quiet, sad kind of contentment. Days pass and Caroline keeps spending her nights with Oliver, slipping further into his world a little more each time. They drive the country roads with the radio playing, easy and happy, the kind of carefree days that never seem to last. One night she asks if he ever feels bad about what he does to people. He says sometimes for the small stuff, but never for the big cons. Those, he tells her, he sleeps just fine over. He gives her his whole philosophy, using a single stick of gum as the example to make his point. Steal a piece of gum from a giant chain store, he says, and you're not really hurting the workers or the manager at all. You're taking a fraction of a penny from the richest shareholders in the world, people who will never even notice it's gone. She says that still doesn't make it right. He agrees with her, but reminds her she only asked if he feels bad, and the honest answer is that he doesn't. He points across the room at the oil men in the bar, men moving whole fortunes through their hands without blinking. To Oliver, the whole world is one big con, top to bottom. He doesn't do it out of greed or anger, he insists. He just sees the angle that other people miss, and now Caroline can't stop turning that one word over in her mind, the angle. She quietly wonders if seeing the angle is something a person can actually learn, something she could learn herself. Hold that thought. Another night, another song they both pretend to love, leaning close together in the warm dark of the bar. He asks what she's thinking about tonight. She says softly, South Carolina. Then she finally tells him the truth she has been holding back. South Carolina is where her mother lives. Her mother left her behind when Caroline was less than a year old, too young to even remember her face. Oliver says small towns are strange places. Everybody knows your name, but somehow nobody ever really knows you at all. She admits she keeps everyone at arm's length. He asks if it's because her mother walked out on her. She says it's deeper than just being afraid of getting hurt. It runs further down than that. She's afraid she might be the one who does the hurting, that she carries inside her whatever it was that made her own mother leave. Oliver tells her gently that she doesn't have it in her. He just knows, he says, with a certainty that surprises her. So that's why she wants South Carolina so badly. She needs to find out if she even likes her own mother after all these years. Hank gives the young couple a little money to help them on their way, pressing it into Caroline's hands like a blessing. He sends Oliver off with a quiet, steady warning to remember what he told him, a father's words meant to be kept. On the road, Caroline shows Oliver the $60 her father quietly slipped her before they left. Then she says the words that change everything between them, "Teach me how to con." He starts with the change trick, drilling her over and over on the counting and the smooth, easy patter. They turn it into a game between them, raising the stakes from $20 to $50 to $100. Oliver explains the real lesson underneath it all. Every con works by exploiting the flaws hidden inside a system. He shows how a store alarm simply can't tell two security tags apart when they cross the sensor at the very same moment. Then he tells her that people are systems too, just like machines. He asks if she even believes in free will. He compares people to rocks tumbling helplessly down the side of a mountain, with no real control over where they land. She pushes back at that. She makes her own choices all the time, she insists. He says every choice is just neurons firing in the brain, triggers and reactions that a clever person can learn to pull on purpose. She asks the big question, the one that really matters. How do you actually exploit a person's firing neurons? He says she has something on her face, maybe a little drool, and leans in close to her to point it out. Then he explains exactly what just happened inside her body. Her heart raced and her cheeks flushed hot with embarrassment. That embarrassment forced her whole mind to focus on one single thing, and nothing else in the world existed. And while she wasn't watching, he slipped the bracelet right off her wrist without her ever feeling a thing. The lesson lands hard. They practice pickpocketing out on the street, again and again, until she finally starts to get it right. He's a tough teacher, demanding and exact. He won't say good job until the lift is truly clean and invisible. Finally, she nails it, shrieking with pure delight as she pulls it off and holds up her prize. As they ride along, Oliver opens up about his own father, a man who left him when he was just 9 or 10 years old. She teases him that he still gives the man an extra 6 months, rounding it up to sound a little better. He says he never tracked his father down, terrified that he might turn into the very same parent who walked away. The only real difference between him and his father, he says, is that he simply doesn't want to find out the truth. Then he tells her a quiet, sad story. At 12 years old, he found a letter from his father buried in the trash. The letter promised a camping trip that was never going to happen. His mother had thrown it away before he could ever see it. But the lesson he took from it, he says, wasn't really about his father at all. He learned he couldn't trust his mother either. Everyone lies, he tells her, and people lie hardest of all to themselves. And if you understand how someone lies to themselves, you can predict every move they'll make. That, he says, is real power. She asks if he likes power. He says no, he likes control. Then, with a glint in his eye, he dares her to make a bet. He orders 3 beers and 3 shots of whiskey, lining them up on the bar between them. He bets her $10 he can finish all 3 beers before she can down all 3 shots. There's only one rule: they can't touch each other's glasses, not once. She agrees, and they're off and racing. He drinks fast, then teases her, asking how she could possibly win against him. Then, with a smile, she shows him exactly how. She places her empty shot glasses upside down right over the tops of his beers. Now he can't touch hers to move them out of the way. He's completely stuck. She has beaten him at his own game. He asks her, half amazed, what makes her so smart. She just smiles and says she has an idea of her own, and we can tell something bigger is taking shape in her mind. At a busy train station, Caroline bumps right into an older traveler, apologizing sweetly and brushing past before he can think twice. Moments later, Oliver approaches that very same man, Mr. Henry, holding up a lost wallet like a good Samaritan. Oliver says he found it on the ground, but the cash and the bank card inside are already gone, and Mr. Henry's stomach drops. Mr. Henry is shaken and scared. Oliver, smoothly playing a banker, tells him he works at a place called Cardiff. He warns the old man that his bank has lately been hit by a wave of pickpockets and identity thieves. Mr. Henry suddenly remembers a young woman who bumped into him just minutes ago, Caroline, of course, though he has no idea. Oliver warns him that a thief can drain an entire account in just 3 hours, so they absolutely must call the bank right now. Oliver pretends to phone an old friend of his over at the bank's security division to help sort it all out. He even buys the frightened old man a sandwich and a cold drink, playing the perfect kind stranger to the hilt. He presses a fold of cash into Mr. Henry's hand, telling him warmly that no one should ever have to travel broke. Then a woman comes on the line claiming to be from the bank, calmly asking him to verify his identity for security. Mr. Henry, trusting and grateful, reads out his social security number and even his mother's maiden name. And just like that, the woman on the phone drains everything he has, thousands and thousands of dollars gone in seconds. The con is complete. Back together afterward, Caroline is breathless and thrilled, her eyes shining. She has never felt anything like this rush before in her life. She wants more of it. She wants to go bigger, far bigger than a wallet at a train station. Then she says it right out loud, almost daring herself to. What about banks? Oliver lays out a careful getaway plan, using 2 separate cars and 2 clean, separate routes out of town. The only thing they ever bring into the bank itself is 1 empty bag. Everything else stays behind, far away from the crime. She isn't even nervous about it. They look at each other and decide just like that to do it. Oliver coaches her carefully through the entire robbery, step by step, before they ever set foot inside. She'll walk in, raise the gun, and tell everyone to stay calm. 60 seconds on the clock, then straight back out. Her 2 simple jobs are crowd control and keeping the tellers filling that bag as fast as their hands can move. But inside, the moment is real and she shakes, struggling to remember even her 2 simple tasks. Oliver's voice in her ear calms her down. He waits outside, listening close on the police radio. The instant the call goes out over the air, he honks the horn. They speed away together, hearts pounding wild in their chests. She did it, her very first bank robbery. But Oliver immediately turns to her and asks what she did wrong. She insists, still buzzing, that she did nothing wrong at all. Then comes the gut punch. In all the rush and panic, she left the money sitting right there behind her. They got absolutely nothing. So they try again at another bank, sharper and more focused this time, determined not to repeat the mistake. She runs the same script in her head, fill the bag and pass it back, hands where she can see them at all times. Oliver honks the horn the very second the police call crackles across the radio. This time the whole run goes smooth as silk. She grabs the heavy bag and they fly out the door laughing in disbelief. But far away, somewhere we can't see, a single gunshot cracks the air. Remember that sound, it will return when we least expect it. Back home, Hank fumbles helplessly with his answering machine while Caroline patiently guides him through it over the phone. Then an officer knocks at a neighbor's front door, holding up a grainy photo of a wanted woman. The neighbor gasps out loud, it's the bank robber from the news, and Hank, listening on the line, slowly realizes with horror that it's his own Caroline. We see her at work inside yet another bank, the script now cold and practiced in her bones, fill and pass, no time to waste, no hesitation left. A child cries out for her father somewhere in the chaos. A man drops to the floor and shields his little girl as the alarm screams overhead. Oliver honks the horn, they race off together, and he scolds her sharply for not listening close enough for his signal. The news now ties a whole string of robberies stretching across the South to one single unidentified woman. In a quiet motel room, Oliver brings up breakfast while Caroline showers, the 2 of them almost playing house like a normal couple. She asks the porter to bring up a newspaper, careless and relaxed, too comfortable for her own good. But the porter, James, catches a glimpse of the duffel bag and the wig lying right there on the bed. He has seen far too much. Oliver grabs hold of him and turns cold and frightening in a single instant, the charming mask falling away completely. He reads the porter's full name and license number straight off his ID badge, memorizing every single detail in seconds. He stuffs $1,000 deep into James' pocket, the cash working as both a generous gift and a chilling threat. Oliver recites the man's home address from memory, proving without a doubt that he can find him absolutely anywhere. He warns James never to tell a single soul what he saw, and forces the terrified man to say yes out loud. Then they pack up fast and walk straight out the door, calm and easy, as if nothing at all has happened. In the car, Caroline finally snaps at him. That was too far, she says. He nearly let his real name slip right in front of the porter. Oliver says he needed the man scared out of his mind so he wouldn't run and call security, but his sudden cruelty has rattled her deeply. She has to pull the car over, sick to her stomach from all the adrenaline. He tells her softly that she'll be okay. Later they sit and study a thick stack of fake identities, names, addresses, even astrology signs they'll need to memorize cold. Then Caroline asks the question that haunts the whole film, the one with no easy answer. How do you know if you're good people pretending to be bad or bad people who are only pretending to be good? Oliver has no answer for her. After a long silence, she says she wants to go to South Carolina now, today. He agrees. They drive across the state line at last. Oliver asks quietly if this is the place. She says yes, her voice barely above a whisper. He offers to come inside with her, to stand at her side. She tells him to wait in the car. This part she has to do alone. Caroline asks a man nearby if a woman named Deborah lives anywhere around here. Yes, he says, that's Deb's place, all right. He tells her to try the bar down the way if she really wants to find her. Keep that bar in mind. Caroline walks into a rough little roadhouse packed with loud, hard-drinking strangers, a far cry from the mother she imagined. A brassy woman barks at the men by the door to shut it already and stop letting all the cool air out. The woman asks Caroline for a lighter, then looks her over and notices just how clever and quick she seems. She jokes that a girl like Caroline could rob her blind. Caroline plays right along, hiding everything she really is behind a smile. This loud, brassy woman is Deborah, and Caroline already senses, deep in her bones, exactly who she's looking at. Caroline orders 2 screwdrivers, one for each of them, easing into the conversation slow and careful. Deborah squints hard at her across the bar. She swears she knows this girl from somewhere, though she can't place it. Caroline says she's just passing through, with no real destination in mind, keeping her secret close. Deborah laughs and says this dusty little town is her own destination, born here, raised here, never left. She brags loudly about her wild old days in Tennessee, Florida, even Woodstock, painting herself a legend. Her stories are tall tales, half-true at best, the kind told only to impress strangers in a dim bar. Caroline carefully asks if Deborah ever lived in Texas, because that, she says, is where she herself is from. Deborah says yes, she lived there a while, and claims she can hear that Texas drawl hiding in Caroline's voice. She says Texas is a fine place not to be, and that she never much liked the people there anyway. She left, she says, because she hated being told who to be by anyone. Now she just does whatever she pleases. Then Caroline asks the real question, the one she came all this way for. Does Deborah have any kids? A drunk man stumbles over and interrupts, and Deborah snaps at him viciously to leave them the hell alone. Now Deborah turns sharp and suspicious. She fixes Caroline with a hard stare and asks why she really came here. She says plainly that Caroline wants to know who her mother is and why she was left behind all those years ago. Then she delivers the cruelest truth of all. From the very moment she found out she was pregnant, she knew she was never meant to be a mother. Whatever answers Caroline came searching for, Deborah says coldly she'll just have to learn to live without them. Deborah jokes bitterly that this place clearly wasn't her daughter's destination after all, twisting the knife with a smile. Caroline breaks apart inside. She leaves the bar in tears, and Oliver is there to gather her up and get her out of there. The news reports that investigators have now opened official cases at 3 different banks across the region. Strangers on the TV talk about the mysterious robber, half afraid of her and half charmed by her growing legend. From a payphone, Caroline calls her father Hank, still shaken to the core from the meeting with her mother. She tells him she finally met her mother in South Carolina, and she tells him quietly that he was right all along. She says she's a lot like her mother, more than she ever feared. Hank insists, hurt, that he never once said that to her. He gently asks what she's been doing out there all this time. She can't bring herself to say the words. Instead, she turns to Oliver with a darker plan forming in her eyes. How much money do they need to leave the country forever? He says 200,000 or 300,000 at least, but they'd have to start hitting much bigger banks to get it. She says it cold and final, no hesitation left in her at all. Let's rob the whole world. The robberies grow bigger and bolder by the day, the getaways tighter, faster, more ruthless than before. But at one bank, the whole plan shatters in an instant. The police are already inside, waiting. Officers scream at Caroline to drop the gun and get down on the ground right now. She's caught, frozen in place, her heart hammering against her ribs as they close in from every side. Then an alarm shrieks and a panicked crowd erupts, and in the chaos Oliver grabs her, hauls her up, and pulls her out. Dispatch calls it out over the radio, 1 male, 1 female, fleeing the scene in a brown sedan. Desperate now, Oliver drags a random stranger right out of his car at gunpoint in broad daylight. He forces the terrified driver to take the wheel and drive a decoy route to throw the police off their trail. Sirens wail close behind them as Oliver and Caroline scramble frantically for another way out of the net. Oliver hands her something and tells her, fast and low, that the police are hunting for 2 people traveling together. So he needs her to climb into the trunk of the car while he drives the 2 of them straight through the police net. When it's finally safe, he opens the trunk and helps her out, both of them shaking, drenched in sweat and fear. He tells her it's over, they're okay now, but she can feel deep inside that everything is slipping out of their hands. She begs him to just go, to run, but he says they are nearly out of gas and they can't get far on what's left. Then a state trooper pulls up right beside them on the empty roadside. Hold your breath here. The trooper leans down and asks if everything's okay. Oliver says smoothly that his girlfriend got sick, so they pulled over for a minute. Thinking fast, Caroline blurts out that she's pregnant. It's the perfect cover story and it slips out so naturally. The trooper asks to see their ID. They hand over the clean fakes without a flinch. MS, Clark and Mr. Vance. He steps away to run their names through dispatch, and the seconds stretch out longer and longer, agonizing and slow. Oliver whispers to her that the ID are completely clean and they'll be just fine. They both cling tight to that hope. Over the radio, dispatch reads back the fake names, Clark and Vance, checking them carefully against the wanted list. The trooper walks back to the car, apologizing politely. There's a couple at large, he explains, who match their description. But the fake names hold up perfectly. He believes them completely and starts to wave them on down the road. He even chats kindly about his own wife's awful morning sickness and warmly wishes the two of them well on their way. Then, almost as a careless afterthought, he asks to take just a quick peek at the registration in the glove box. They freeze. When Caroline looks up again, the trooper is gone and something terrible has happened in those few seconds. Oliver has crossed a line they can never come back from. She turns on Oliver, shaking and sobbing uncontrollably. What did he do? Why in the world would he ever do that? He grabs her hard and repeats one thing over and over, his voice flat and urgent. They have to go. They have to go right now. They tear off down the road, leaving the horror behind them, and everything between the two of them has changed for good. Later, in the dark of the car, Oliver quietly asks her how much cash she has left on her. She has only $12 to her name. The rest of all their money is locked in the other car they were forced to abandon. While Oliver sleeps, Caroline slips away to a payphone in the dark and dials a number she's been holding onto. A man answers and he already knows her name before she says a word. He tells her his name is Waylon Jarvis. He's a task force agent hunting the two of them across the whole region. Now the law has a name and a face to chase. He warns her not to hang up the phone. They've already released her identity to every news station in the country. But she only wants one single thing, to talk to her father, so she hangs up on the agent without another word. Hank answers, frightened half to death, and asks if she's okay. She just keeps saying over and over that she's sorry. He begs her to find a police station and turn herself in right away, before anyone else gets hurt because of this. He tells her the trooper is dead and that she has to break away from Oliver now. Oliver, he says, is dangerous. She goes silent on the line, the truth sinking in. She knows deep down her father is right, but she still can't bring herself to let go. Roadblocks now sit on every main road, and even the quiet back county lanes have grown far too hot to risk. Oliver finds her standing at the phone and asks what her dad said. She just wanted to hear his voice, she tells him softly. Oliver tells her very gently and very quietly that maybe she shouldn't call her father again for a good long while. They both realize the car is known to the police now. They have to dump it somewhere and disappear completely. They slip into a noisy, crowded street fair, hiding themselves inside a sea of happy, unsuspecting faces. Oliver tells her to wait right here while he goes ahead to scout out a safe way through the crowd. He pulls her gaze away from something grim happening nearby and makes her look only at him, only at his face. He lays out a hopeful plan for her. They'll lie low for a day or two, then circle back for the car and the money. And then what? She asks him, searching his eyes. He says they'll just take it one single step at a time. First new ID, then Mexico, maybe, or Thailand, somewhere far away where no one will ever think to look for them. She asks about France instead, almost shyly. He smiles at her and says France then, if that's truly what she wants. She reminds him of his old promise from way back, 500 dates. It's the loop closing from that very first night. She says they probably only have a couple of those dates left now, and both of them know exactly why. He asks her how on earth they ever ended up here in this mess. She says it so simply, you walked into my filling station. For one tender, fragile moment they hold each other close, their favorite song playing soft somewhere in the background. Then sirens come closing in from every direction at once, swallowing the music. There is nowhere left in the world to run. Oliver tells her he loves her, the words heavy with everything they can't escape. She says she loves him too, Carolina, Caroline. A gunshot rings out and the crowd scatters in screaming panic. This is the sound from before, finally arriving at last. Police shout for the gun to be dropped. A single whispered word, bang, and then another shot splits the night. Oliver does not survive the night. A vehicle pulls up slowly to the spot where Caroline waits all alone in the dark, the world gone quiet around her. There's a sudden struggle, a heavy thud, and then she's gone into the night, slipping past the law one more time. A soft, lonely guitar carries her away into the dark as the legend of Caroline only grows larger. Time passes, we hear that same boarding call ring out again, now boarding for Charleston, South Carolina. A phone rings and Hank snatches it up, hoping against all hope. Is that you, Carr? His voice trembles with it. She says the saddest thing in their whole private language. Daddy, today's the day I quit calling. Their old Ecuador game now turned into a final goodbye. The news confirms the worst of it. Caroline's accomplice, Oliver Anderson, left the world overnight in a deadly standoff with police. Investigators chased a false lead, stopping buses up and down the line between Memphis and Charleston, still desperately hunting Caroline Daniels. Then, somewhere far away from all of it, a woman steps calmly up to an airline counter. She asks for one single ticket to Quito, Ecuador, one way only, not round trip. We know exactly who she is now. She tells the agent there's a little something on her face, leaning in close as she says it, the old trick, the very first one. She pays in cash for the flight to Quito, counting out crisp bills one by one across the counter. The agent looks up and asks if there's anything else at all she needs. And Caroline smiles and says the words that started it all. I'm gonna need the larger bill. The con lives on, and so does she, flying free at last, just like the birds on that wire.